Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked, and on this occasion I am once again joined by James Kearney. 30 seconds previously, James Kearney had a cat on his head, so I wish I'd pressed record sooner. I wish I'd done that. But no, we are here to not talk about feelings. We are here to talk about Heart of Midlothian and just to kind of the latest from the club. We weren't really sure what we were going to speak about. We were meant to do this video yesterday, but I had to go to Tynecastle for the Maroon Mile launch, which we will talk about shortly. But over the last kind of couple of days, a couple of things have emerged. We've got Steven Naismith. Very, very tenuous links to Millwall, just because I know where the links came from, a certain publication, and I'm not sure. I will take their word for it. But Ann Budge was asked about it yesterday when she spoke at the Maroon Mile launch, so we will talk about Steven Naismith and some of the comments around that, and we'll also talk about the devastating news that Calem Nieuwenhof's picked up a hamstring issue. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like it is going to be too serious. Thankfully, so we'll get around to talking about that. But first, Steven Naismith. It emerged, I think, a couple of days ago that he was seen as, or Millwall were certainly admirers of him.
Yeah.
And that they have they sacked their manager last month, Rob Edwards, and they've reappointed Neil Harris on a deal until the end of the season. So yeah, I'm not sure how much truth in it is, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised either. Just because on this side of things, where Steven Naismith is obviously doing a very good job at the moment with Hearts, but he's got a big thing about him is no English club are sceptical looking north of the border for managerial hires. However, one thing that Steven Naismith has got is a name down south because of his time with Everton, because of his time with Norwich City. So I think it's only going to be a matter of not a matter of time, but like putting two together. If he's doing well with Hearts, then he's going to get interest from down south, especially this number of clubs who are constantly looking for managers due to the churn of managers down there.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. I think my thoughts on it are that when I first saw the links again, I thought it's maybe a bit early, a bit soon, just because he is still, he's a young manager. He's still not been in charge for one full season yet. And I think for English Championship clubs where they've got a bit of money to play about with, they've got, there's quite a lot at stake. I don't know if they'd be necessarily willing to take a gamble on someone like Naismith who's not got much of a track record behind him just because he's not been doing it for a very long time. But you are right though in that I'm sure that if things continue as they're going and Naismith maintains the momentum that the team have sort of built up over the last few months, it will happen eventually. And like you say, he does have that pedigree, that name recognition down south that, I don't mean to just pull out a random name and chuck somebody on the bus here, but I think of somebody like maybe like Lennon, where, okay, yeah, he had that spell down south as a player with Leicester City, but, you think of like when he was doing well at Hibs or after leaving Celtic, I don't really remember him ever getting linked with like English Championship jobs, So I think there is probably a bit of a snootiness or a bit of a snobbishness when it comes to English clubs looking at the Scottish League, not only for managers, but for players as well. But yeah, it does seem to me that it seems awfully soon, both for any interested club down south. It seems a bit soon to be kind of pushing the ball out and deciding on Naismith's the guy. And then the other side as well, from the Naismith side of things, I think it's probably a bit too soon for him as well. In that, this time last year he was managing in the fifth tier of Scottish football. And don't worry, he's obviously the team is making big strides and he's doing really well. He's doing a great job, but it's an awful. It still needs. I think he still needs to get a bit more experience behind him. And when you speak to him as well, I don't get the impression that he's a kind of a careerist who just wants to, do all right and move up to the next rung in the ladder. I get the impression that he's taking a long term view. He's taking he's looking at. Like I said, the longer term, and I'd be surprised if he just up sticks and jump ship to the first English Championship job that came walking along.
Yeah, there are a couple of things from what you said. They're really, really pertinent and important. And one of them was just first, like how things can change. We'll kind of come on to talk about that, because that's something that Ann Budge mentioned. Well, she was asked about it and then kind of talked around it. But yeah, listening to Naismith speaking to him, a lot of things he has said is everything's got a view to long term. He's talked quite a lot about how he's wanting to make changes within how the football club operates, how he wants to improve the pathway from academy to B team to the first team. He has long-term views on that and how he thinks it can be more effective, productive and efficient. And then the way he talks about recruitment as well. He doesn't want a big overhaul of players each summer, and it's everything's geared with improving the team in small steps to get them to the next level, to kind of almost future-proof and put a better foundation and platform that's kind of ever been there from the club. And also he's talked about that for himself, in that he wasn't really sure in terms of the coaching, what he wanted to do. He was, when he moved from had that transition from player to manager at Tynecastle, he was involved with the first team, Robbie Nielsen, Liam McCulloch, Gordon Forrest. He told me he doesn't feel comfortable was there because he wasn't really part of the coaching staff, so he was just on the periphery. He had been part of the playing team, and then he got the opportunity to go and manage work with John Rankin, the 18s, and then eventually the B team. He said he didn't know if he could coach youngsters because of demands, the demands that he had as a player. He went and he loved it. And then I think ever since then, he has had a map in his head of how he wants his managerial career to go. And you see, I think you kind of use the term careerist. You see managers who will be always got an eye out for the next role, the next job, just kind of trying to stay in the game or trying to get 1 foot up the ladder. However, Naismith, you really do get the sense that if he puts in the building blocks that he wants at Hearts, then he's going to be here for a while. It's going to be a long term, and then when the time's right, when he thinks he'll move on. Because that's the thing that I remember him saying that to me, was that it was I spoke to him at the time where there was a lot of doubt, suspicion. Well, not a lot, but there's still suspicion and doubt over his appointment and the direction Hearts will go under him. And he kind of said that it's like when he knows that he can't take Hearts any further or he can improve Hearts, that's when he'll step away. And we've seen it with Hearts. They're really keen to be loyal to the manager and give managers time. And Budge said that, so he will be. He's in an environment now where he should get time as a young manager to learn, to improve, and to take the team forward, because he's got really good progressive ideas. So I really do think that it would have to be a ridiculous situation or offer for him to jump ship this early on, especially when you consider, moving on to the next thing, is 84 days ago, people were questioning why the club appointed him in the first place. So if anyone knows, football is just a very, very temperamental game.
Yeah, but it's unbelievably fickle, and as you kind of allude to there, like your stock rises and falls very quickly as a manager, But I think though, when you think of, I'm sure he's probably got ambitions to, one day manage in a different league or maybe down south and manage a bigger club or something like that. And, that's absolutely fine. Of course, of course he's going to back himself. This guy's a Scotland international, played in the Premier League as a footballer, played for Rangers. Like, I'm sure he's obviously got ambitions that you don't really have the career he did unless you do. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I just think for now, Hearts is a really attractive job to be in at the moment, where...
And he understands that as well. He understands the fortunate position he was put in.
Because I think if he can, obviously he's been talking about the fact that he wants to really consolidate third kind of over the next couple of years and start looking up at the old firm. And you think, well, if that happens, and Hearts start, kind of get a little bit of a cushion between third and the rest, you get European football. You're going to get European football every season. You're going to be, big games against, Celtic and Rangers. You're going to have European matches. You're going to have chances to win trophies. And, for someone who this is their first proper management gig, that's not bad, in terms of the opportunities you get. And obviously, if you do well in those endeavours, if you do get back-to-back third places, or you manage to win a cup, or you manage even to, do something in Europe, that's only going to enhance your job prospects down the line as well. And I think that, Naismith strikes me as an intelligent guy, and I think he probably realises that, in the fact that, yeah, okay, maybe one day down the line you'd like a bigger job and a better job and all the rest of it, fine. But in order to get that, you need to do very well in the here and now. And, again, as in terms of the opportunities that Hearts can offer him, there's not many clubs, in Europe, let's be honest, that kind of have those same sort of demands or expectations every season. So right now, I think it's a relationship. I think it's a good move for everyone. Obviously, Naismith seems to be enjoying himself. Obviously, the team's doing really well at the moment as well. That helps. But yeah, I don't think Hearts supporters have to be worried about him kind of up in sticks and leaving anytime soon. I think if we get to the end of the year and Hearts are still absolutely, the end of the calendar year, end of 2024, and Hearts have won the League Cup next season, and they've done well in Europe, and they're on track to finish third by a mile again. At that point, I'd maybe start to be a little bit antsy, but I think until then, it just seems too soon, both for the manager, and for any interested parties, I would say.
Yeah, you have to take into the fact that he's 37 as well, and I'm sure there will be another rocky period at Hearts.
Of course.
That's just the way it is. It can't be all sunshine and roses all the time. That's just not how it happens at football clubs. And yeah, one thing is like with managers, I think there's a big thing in two things with your choice. Decision making is knowing when the right time is to leave. For example, Calem Davidson, when he won the double, I think he just leave. In hindsight, just leave St Johnstone. There's nothing that you can do to eclipse that. But also choosing the right club to come into, because especially down south, the clubs are not. They're never reluctant to change manager. There's a big churn there, and that's where I think it's. Like with Hearts, there's a support structure there that, like it or love it, that the club will give you time. So he is in a very good position. He's in a club with very good, that are very good with young managers. I think I've got a good environment, a good structure for young managers. I think he recognises that. So yeah,
I would even expand that a bit further and just say just managers in general.
Yeah,
you'll obviously know better than I will, but I'm struggling to remember the last time somebody was at Hearts, was given the bullet a few months in. Was it, Burley? Maybe? And obviously
Daniel Stendhal.
That's its own thing,
So it's Stendhal, but
Stendhal, I suppose, kind of, but
there's circumstances there. The demotion, the way the season ended really abruptly, and you're probably just thinking, right, just get someone who can kind of sort the team out and get back into the Premiership. So yeah, there's obviously circumstances there. Cathro, obviously, he was given. I think it was one of those where it was clear that it wasn't working out, and people were the wrong guy at the wrong time. So yeah, but by and large, they want to give managers time. So yeah, like you, I think you summed up perfectly. It's not the right time for. At the moment, Naismith is in a very good position at a very good club that will help him for his career, and he should help the club in the future as well.
Yeah, exactly. Again, off the top of my head, the only one I could realistically actually see him going to if the game calling would be something like Everton, where you go, all right, massive club, okay, you got £1 billion transfer budget, and obviously he's a former player, he's got ties, so you kind of go, all right, if Everton came in and fancy it, it'd be hard to hold that against him, but. Even then, obviously, that seems quite a remote prospect at this point in time. So, yeah, again, I don't think there's much to worry about. Give it 6 months, maybe a year, then we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe a Scottish Cup, a League Cup, and European Group Stage success. We'll reevaluate it as bigger clubs come knocking. Moving on to Calem Nieuwenhof. So it was one that you were kind of half worried about when he seemed to be limping off in the Celtic games. He got replaced in the second half, but it just seemed to be a wee bit maybe a wee bit of cramp, a wee bit of fatigue, and he's obviously played a lot of games and he's ran a lot of he's covered a lot of distance. However, it's emerged that I think it was Barry Anderson. Even you spoke to Naismith, got an update on his condition, that he's going to miss the Grant Morton game, and then we got it on the site. He spoke to media in his homeland, spoke to media in Australia, and confirmed the injury, and he's expected to potentially miss up to 2 weeks. So that could be the Morton game, and then the way to Ross County next Saturday. Then it's international break. So I've got a wee bit of sympathy, got a lot of sympathy for him, because it could mean that he won't get selected for Australia. But I wrote about it in the newsletter that's gone out at 5:00, and that you have to give him huge credit, because it's now to a position where, in terms of the guys, you don't want anyone to get injured. But in terms of the structure of who you don't want to get injured, Lawrence Shankland's obviously first. Frankie Kent is probably second. And now Nieuwenhof's almost put himself in a position where he's the third person you don't want to get injured, just with his influence. And unfortunately, he has. And it's frustrating more than anything, just because of the progress he has made, and it's kind of stopped him a wee bit. Yeah,
it's probably interrupted that momentum that he was building.
Interrupted. I think that's a good phrase.
So yeah, I agree with that. Again, it doesn't sound like anything particularly serious, so I'm sure when he does return, I don't think he'll have much issue picking up where he's left off. The one thing I would say though is that, the thing that makes Nieuwenhof different from, say, if Frankie Kent gets injured or if Lawrence Shankland gets injured, Hearts have got loads of options in central midfield.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, so we'll play Cammy Devlin instead. It's like, all right, that's not so bad. Whereas, Shankland gets injured, it's going to have to be Tagawa. And I know I wrote about him saying he had a good game against Celtic, but he's still a striker who scored 1 goal all season. Not great. And then, equally, obviously at the back as well, we know fine well like that. I mean, you just need to look at the Celtic game again. When Frankie Kent was injured, Stephen Kingsley picks up a knock and has to play the full 90 because there's nobody else. So I think that's the one thing I would say, is that while, someone like Shankland or Kent drops out the team, yes, they've got big shoes to fill, absolutely, but there's probably not as many options there. Whereas in midfield, you think, all right, maybe it's time for Macaulay Tate to get a first start. Maybe bring in Aidan Denham, maybe give Cammy Devlin a start for the first time in a good wee while as well. So it's, I don't think it's not one of those ones where you're kind of hitting the panic stations. But at the same time, there's no getting away from the fact that Nieuwenhof has been probably Hearts' best player over the last couple of months. Maybe excluding Mr. Shankland, of course, but the usual caveats apply. Apart from Shankland, but he's been really, really impressive and really coming on to a game. And it's a shame to see him get this knock, but by all accounts, it's nothing particularly serious, and he should be back fairly promptly as well. So no, I'm not too concerned about it. It's definitely, you're right. It's a shame that, like you say, he's not getting to continue this fine form, because I'm sure if he was fit and available, he'd be playing on Monday night. But at the same time, there are other options there, and there are also guys in that part of the pitch where they're probably due a game. They're probably due some game time. They should be given a chance. So I don't think it's totally disastrous. It's a bit disappointing, but I don't think it's anything to be over concerned about.
And selfishly, as I've seen Ben Odlin saying that the absolute worst timing for Nieuwenhof to get injured, I would suggest it probably it might not be. Maybe in a week's time.
I would have said a week ago would have been bad. Imagine if he'd missed Rangers, Hibs, and Celtic. That would have been a problem.
But also, if just say they wanted to. The fact that there's not a massive run of games coming up now, you've got Morton, you've got Ross County, then it's international break. So I think personally, it's one of the worst times for him to get injured, because he's put himself into that position where you think, he probably deserves a call up for the Socceroos. I think they've got a couple of World Cup qualifiers. But selfishly, from Hearts' perspective, it's not the worst time because of the schedule, and he can have maybe 3 weeks off and to fully recover before the next run of fixtures into the end of the season. But I think you make a really good point that I didn't really think about the fact that the loads of options that Naismith has to play with in the centre midfield as well. So
it's probably the best stocked area of the squad, I would
yeah,
argue.
Absolutely. That or goalkeeper.
So many options. Oh yeah, goalie actually. Yeah, to be fair, goalie. Yeah. I think it's goalie by default, right?
But we're going to be putting out an article, I think Saturday on I always want to call him Hoffenheim because if I just call him Hoff, on Calem Nieuwenhof and his progression, his development, how influential he's been. I spoke to Naismith yesterday about him. He was full of praise for him. He said that he knew straight away when they looked at him as a potential signing, he wanted him in his team, and he believed that he had the qualities to show. And I remember Naismith saying it at the coach's presentation that he was like, "Believe me, he'll become a really good Hearts player." And it was that point, and again, you were kind of raising your eyebrows, like, "I'm not sure." He's completely turned it around, and James, you've watched, obviously, paid a lot of attention to him. You're going to be doing the bulk of the writing on this article. What is it that most impresses you about him?
To be honest, I think it's that way where this is maybe going back to when we were trying, when he wasn't doing as well. We would say to each other, what is it he does? What's his thing? Like he's not like he's not a particularly great runner, or he's not a great dribbler, or he's not passing his game. What is it? And it's like now I look at it and I go, I think that's it. It's the fact that he's not really got one or two things that he's particularly amazing at or brilliant at, but he's just pretty good at basically everything. Yeah. Which, having someone like that in your team in midfield is invaluable. Having a guy who's kind of like 6 or 7 out of 10 at everything across the board, like they're just the absolute glue that hold the team together. And I think that's what we've been seeing over the last couple of months. I mean, I think against Celtic, I was really impressed with the way he was actually able to carry the ball and get forward. Again, that's something we've spoken about a lot on here this season, is that Hearts at times have been missing that person in midfield who can just kind of grab the game by the scruff of its neck and really start asking the opposition some difficult questions. I think Nieuwenhof against Celtic the weekend there, that was probably the best type of that performance that we've seen from a Hearts player this season. I don't think we've really seen someone doing that
specific
to that level.
Yeah.
And obviously doing it against Celtic's obviously great. Yes, usual caveat about they were down to 10 men and all the rest of it. Fine. It was still great though. You go and play in front of you, and he was still playing up against a 4-man defence and all the rest of it. So yeah, I thought he was excellent then. I think that's an area of the game he's really coming on. Part of it as well, I think one of the things that I've been really impressed with is just, I think one of the big kind of changes that I've noticed with him is that he's not quite as reluctant as he maybe was before. I think there's times in games where he wouldn't really kind of take ownership, or I think he's quite happy being like a kind of passenger almost in the team, if that's not being too harsh on him. Whereas now I think you see him demanding the ball in midfield, getting on it, and just
being more assertive,
shifting it on, and like just taking a bit more responsibility on the park. I think because obviously that kind of thing, it does usually come with time, because you're a new player playing the other side of the world, new teammates, and it takes a while to kind of really assert yourself and be like, no, I'm the guy here. But I think that's what we're starting to see more and more of. And to be honest, one of those things where the more he's done it, the better he's looked. And then that then gives him more confidence to go on and do it. And then he does even better, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, no, I think there have been a few things, I think, recently that have really jumped out at me. But the big one for me, certainly off the most recent game, was that kind of ball carrying, line breaking runs from midfield that just haven't really been there for large stretches of the season. And it makes such a huge difference when they are.
Yeah, on something you just said about he's young, moving across the world. I don't think the transition from living in Australia to living in Edinburgh has been massive. I think he's adapted fairly quickly. It's helped because there's been Aussies in the team, and he's got a good bond with Kenneth Vargas as well. But I think it was on the pitch. I think it was a culture shock on the pitch, and for all that we've said is like, what does he bring to the team? And then it just clicks, and we're like, oh, he does that. I'm going to say that, everything. I think for him, he's almost gone, so this is what Scottish football is all about. I can do this. And then it's just kind of a click. He's got used to it. He knows what to expect. And on the point of view saying that he can do a bit of everything. So he's because we talked about yesterday about what he wanted to ask Naismith. We talked about he's a jack of all trades and master of none. I'd kind of asked that question, but when I was speaking to me, he'd almost answered it, because he ran through all the different positions, kind of positions or roles he can say or plays. Like, if I want him to do X, he'll do X. If I want him to do Y, he'll do Y. If I need him to change and be Z, he can change and be Z. So he's quite malleable as a player, and kind of like a kind of midfield chameleon.
Oh yeah, and managers just love that versatility, like having options during games, and if you can make changes to the team without having to turn at the bench, that's always handy. And as we know, as we've seen a lot this season, Naismith does like to make changes. He's pretty proactive when things aren't going right, and when the first half isn't going right, as has often been the case, he can then change up. So again, guys like that become a manager's dream, where it's just like, oh yeah, you can, rather than being a kind of ball winner in midfield, okay, now we need to actually just take the ball and dribble, drive at the opposition, or maybe Beningami's injured. Okay, we need to sit at the base and just you play the simple safe passes constantly. And that's all you do. So yeah, I think having players that can just kind of switch roles like that at the drop of a hat, like, it does make a big difference. And they're always the teachers' pets. I think they're always like the managers love them. The managers absolutely adore players like that, and so I can see why Naismith's so keen on him for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, that article will be up on this site in the next couple of days, and I think it's one we've been looking forward to just because of the impact he has made. Before we move on to kind of finish up and talking about the Maroon Mile and Foundation Hearts, William Harding asks, thoughts on the last 4 pre-split games. Very realistic seeing us getting all 12 points, I think. Wins against Kelly, Saints, hopefully lock up third. So they've... I'm just getting I should have got this up before, if I can find the fixtures. Hearts, obviously, Morton this on Monday in the Scottish Cup, but after that, it's away to Ross County. Then you've got your international break. Then it's home to Kelly, away to St Mirren, home to Livy. But yeah, I mean, looking at that, there's a real possibility to get to 12 points. I think if you look at that and Hearts took 10, that would be, I think it would be a very good return as well. Because you'd hope Ross County and Livingston Hearts are now in a position where these teams should be ones that you pick up 3 points, and like, no matter if it's you play poorly, you still eke out a result. Hopefully,
yeah. I mean, I'd probably expect the Hearts to drop points at some point during that run of games. So the most important one's obviously the Kelly game at Tynecastle, where, to be honest, in that game you look at it and you go, well, Kelly will almost certainly need the win in that game.
Both Kelly and St Mirren need to beat Hearts in these
whereas,
games.
A draw is kind of fine for Hearts. I mean, obviously it's not great, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. Whereas a defeat would be, could get a bit hairy all of a sudden. So, no, I think in those games as well, the fact that the onus will be on them, like they will have to kind of seize the initiative. That's not something that a Derek McInnes team naturally does away from home, I would argue. So I think that I think there's every chance that Hearts could absolutely get third wrapped up pre-split. I think it's absolutely doable. But I would probably expect it to be 1 or 2 slips along the way. As to where those will occur, I'm not entirely sure. Surely Livy, they'll beat Livy at home because Livy are honking at the moment. But you look at Kelly and Saints and you go, ooh, like that those could be spicy ones. Those could be quite interesting ones. So again, I think if Hearts did drop points in those games, provided that they're not defeats, that basically gets Hearts over the line anyway. I would have thought so. Yeah, I think I'm not quite as confident as William, but I'll maybe go for maybe 8 points or 10. That'd be my guess.
I think these next 4 games, more so St Mirren, they come to Kelly and away St Mirren, says, I'm not going to say it will say a lot about Hearts, but I think it'll give you a good indication of the progress Hearts have made. In that we've got a cushion which you can afford to drop points, but in the past Hearts have struggled in the last third of the season, in the last couple of months, whether it's just gone off the boil completely, or they've already wrapped up like third, or they're in mid-table and it kind of just peters out. Whereas I think it would show the mentality of the team that they want to keep going and being that juggernaut that you need to get away from the teams behind you and get closer to the Old Firm. And also the fact that Kelly and St Mirren will be bang up for it. It'll be difficult fixtures. Obviously struggled against Kilmarnock at the start of the season at Tynecastle and got beat by St Mirren and Paisley earlier in the season as well. I would imagine Hearts would want to kind of wrong those rights and see how much they've progressed since then. So yeah, I think it's a real opportunity to again continue to lay down that marker and kind of show how much this team have come on over the last few months. So yeah, I would like to think at least 10 points.
Hopefully. Here's hoping.
And being in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup, which we'll preview the Greenock Morton game tomorrow. I've got a piece out on Sunday with Dougie Emery. That was the Morton manager. From speaking to him and speaking to people who have watched Morton this season, I think Hearts are going to be Morton are going to make it very, very uncomfortable for Hearts. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Finally, we'll just mention just wanted to mention the Maroon Mile. It was announced yesterday by a partnership between Hearts and the Foundation of Hearts. There's over £200,000 in lottery grant that they got to for this project, which I think it's already begun, underway, put together, and it will be completed in October 2025. I think it's an 18-month project. But the idea is to have this Maroon Mile, which celebrates Hearts and the local area, i.e. Gorgie and Dalry. It starts at the War Memorial at Haymarket and then runs all the way to Tynecastle Park and the museum. And it's the Hearts heritage. They've been they're kind of leading on it. It's been a project that's been been in the pipeline for I think a few years now. It's certainly been talked about for a couple of years, and they finally got round to it. And no better way to do it than in the 150th anniversary. But I think it's a really important project because it just reaffirms Hearts within the community, and I think that's a big thing. Is Hearts want to embrace the fact that from Gorgie and Dalry, and what a better place to do this, and kind of putting down basically a marker. I think that's what Ann Budge called it. It's actually putting down physical markers that she didn't use these words, but this is me. This is Hearts territory.
No, yeah, I get that, and yeah, I think these things are just quite nice things to do. Again, if the money's there and it's something that the council are happy to do and all the rest of it. Like you say, I think particularly with Hearts just now, where there is, I think that community aspect, obviously over the last 10 years, has really grown and really consolidated, and obviously through the foundation, in that there is a real kind of community now, I think, to the Hearts support, and there's a lot of input and conversations and things like that. And I just think this is another thing that can kind of help bring people together and promote the club, advertise the club. I'm curious though. My main thought about it is like, how are they going to prevent it from like Hibs fans charging around with like tins of green paint and ruining it? Because sure, there must be some sort of security in place, right? Because like, how else is it going to work?
I don't know. I think because you've got Hibs stuff in Leaf. Like Hibs have kind of planted their flag in Leaf, and understandably so. And it's just one of these things. I don't think it should be worried too much. Or other than that, or just we can get the Gorgie Ultras to man the streets. But no, I think it's a really good thing, and yeah, that's one slight concern. But I've been looking forward to it happening, because you make that walk from, as I often do, from Haymarket up to Gorgie, and you walk past a couple of pubs, but you don't really notice that you are there. There's a massive football team in the area, which this would allow to do. Is again brings it'll be kind of tap into football tourism, but I think it's just a pride factor as well, that there's going to be this marker for Hearts, and this is this is our community. So yeah, it's really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of stuff they'll have to make Hearts known. I think there's going to be like audio tours and stuff as well. So yeah, it's really exciting, and you can read about it on the site. And we've also got, probably going up tomorrow, is a piece, just an update on the Foundation of Hearts as well. There's a lot of stuff going on or in the pipeline as well. Spoke to spoke to Claire Hammond, who is a volunteer at Foundation of Hearts, and Jenny Mallon as well. So got some input from there. So that'll be up on the site tomorrow. And yeah, we'll leave it there. We'll be back tomorrow to speak about the Greenhill Martin match, to preview that, which takes place on Monday. But be sure to check on the website for all the latest from around Heart of Midlothian Football Club. So until then, thank you very much, and goodbye. Goodbye, James.
Bye-bye.